Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That is at Bomani_Jones. Yes, I am back at work today. I feel a lot of y'all think I take all the vacation in the world, when in reality, these last couple of weeks wasn't none of those vacation days. I was just working in a different department. You got to think of ESPN in that way. There's all kinds of different departments, and sometimes, normally I work in men's, right? But this time they told me to go over here and work in the jeans department. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the kind of, that happens from time to time. And so that happened the last few days. But, of course, I always wind up back here when the world is getting a bit dramatic, and the world continues to get a bit dramatic. If you are the type who watches the news, you are aware that it's a bit dramatic. If you are the type that comes over here to escape from the news, bad news, bruh. The news everywhere. Everywhere. If you are looking for an escape, my dude, you're going to need to get you a bunker. But then the problem is, if you go into bunker, you can't live without your smartphone. So you can't even escape from it there. Sorry, man. It is everywhere, and it even got to the Kevin Durant parade in D.C. Now, Shannon, help me out. There's a Kevin Durant parade?
He came home. He's the hero, the conquering hero, won the championship. So we got a Kevin Durant Day, Kevin Durant parade.
In Sea Pleasant, Maryland.
That's correct, yes.
Right. And I have to say, that was kind of the people of Sea Pleasant, Maryland, because they could have been like, we'd have gave you a parade if you won one for the Wizards. Remember that when Kevin Durant was like, nah, I ain't coming home? Remember that? But anyway, they were kind about this. They had their Kevin Durant Day parade, and they say it's for his achievements on and off the court. So, yeah, good for Kevin Durant. Shannon, are you aware of the Adrian Peterson Day parade?
I am not.
Adrian Peterson is from Palestine, Texas, and they have an Adrian Peterson Day in Palestine, Texas, complete with a parade every year. Every year, there's an Adrian Peterson parade. Every year in Palestine, Texas. And if I'm not mistaken, I recall seeing cutlasses as part of the parade, like, whole thing. Like, I remember there being cutlasses because in Palestine, Texas, I mean, what more could you ask for besides a cutlass? By the way, Shannon, what's replacing the cutlass, right? Like, the cutlasses are getting old to where them old cutlasses don't run anymore. Like, right. What's the new cutlass?
No, that's a great question because the folks who got the cutlass, they're holding on to those bad boys.
They hold on to the cutlasses like the Cubans. Like, you ever read the stories about how in Cuba, since the embargo, like, they are the bomb at fixing those old cars because they had no choice? Like, that's what's going to be happening with these cats with these cutlasses. They're going to be inventing all kinds of techniques. But anyway, there was a Kevin Durant Day parade, and somebody came up to Kevin Durant at the Kevin Durant Day parade and asked him about what's going on in the world.
A lot of players have been vocal about Trump lately, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, hell yeah.
We're supposed to be. Well, with him.
Oh, okay. That was pretty simple. I don't really feel like he needed any more words to, what they say, elucidate the situation. Play that one more time.
A lot of players have been vocal about Trump lately, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, hell yeah.
We're supposed to be. Well, with him.
Why is that so funny to me, Shannon? Was it funny to you? Because it was funny to me.
Like we're supposed to be. Like the part before he said what he said about Trump, yeah, we're supposed to be. Like, no, that's a fact.
He sounded like the dude on I Know Black People on Chappelle. Like, why did you trust Ronald Reagan? He wasn't trusted in the first place. That is correct. Like, that is basically what Kevin Durant offered right there. TMZ, by the way, also ran into Boogie Cousins at an airport, and they asked him about the Confederate statues, and Boogie Cousins said to that, and I quote, "Tear them MFers down," unquote. Yeah. Like that's where he was. That's where we are, man. You can't avoid this because everybody's going to bring it to people. And you know why athletes ain't going to be able to avoid this? Because, dog, this is what everybody talking about. Yo, I don't know if you have noticed, guys, but the world has gone kind of crazy, right? The world has gone a little bit bonkers, and as a result, it's going to be coming to your athletes. Here's the only thing, though. Can we all, like, acknowledge, all of us, that saying something bad about the president is not controversial? Like, I feel like that's a necessary thing to point out because controversial is one of these terms that we overuse. Like, controversial is kind of like distractions where we just throw it out there. If you were to ask somebody what controversial actually meant, are you sure that they could give you a definition based on how wantonly people call things controversial or make reference to controversy? Right? Just seriously, stop and think about that for a second. Because at this point, Donald Trump has an approval rating that's in the 30s. All right? In the 30s. So if you say that you don't F with Donald Trump, Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, but that means that roughly 62% of the population agrees with you.
And that would be the majority of people, yes.
Right. Now, I looked this up. Controversial, adjective, giving rise or likely to give rise to public disagreements. I don't even know if that's what's happening at this point with saying that you don't rock with Trump. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's some circles that you could go in where people get mad at you about that. But, Shannon, you know who that circle is full of? I hate the NBA guy.
Unfortunately, I would have to agree with that, yes.
That circle is high on I hate the NBA guy. Kevin Durant is speaking to the NBA base or the people that get who Kevin Durant is. Ain't a single bit of controversy in the world about saying this. You're going to hear a lot more athletes who come out and say that they don't rock with the president. And, I mean, if we're going to be real, there's nothing, like, really impressive about it. Like, when LeBron did his whole we need to love each other thing and so-called president and everything else, I had people get mad at me for saying that I wasn't particularly impressed by the fact that LeBron had done that. No, because, dude, you are talking about a man who is wildly unpopular. Wildly unpopular. And by the way, in the course of this, Shannon, I figured out exactly how it is that we misuse controversial. We use controversial to talk about things that people say that are, like, actually abhorrent and terrible, and we just call it controversial. Does that make sense? Like, you remember, you remember we used to have some people here that put them crazy memes up on the internet?
Right.
You remember that?
Right.
They ain't controversial. They were just ridiculous. There's a difference. There is a difference. But Durant, no, man. We don't F with Donald Trump. The we part is a wee bit presumptuous, though, right? I'm curious who else he's putting in the boat with him, right? Now, how mad would you be, though, if you were one of Kevin Durant's friends, he asked who we was, and he started naming a bunch of people, but he forgot to name you, and then people would be like, so what you saying about that dude? Like, you calling me a sellout, Kevin Durant? Is that what you're doing? So, yeah, this is what we got. Also, he said he wasn't going to the White House, right? Didn't he say that? Are they even going to get invited? Like, serious question. You think they're going to get invited to the White House, the Warriors? Or will it be Joe Lacob by himself? Right? Like, Joe Lacob, it'd be nothing but Joe Lacob and his dogs at the White House. Who would be the one dude on the Warriors who would actually show up to the White House at this point? Because Steph ain't going. I don't even know if he's officially said it, but he ain't going. Durant's not going.
Iguodala's not going.
No. Iguodala is not going. Who's the one dude that's like, y'all sure y'all don't want to go, man? I don't want to go by myself. My mama says she want to go to the White House. She ain't never been. Who's going to be the one? Anybody? Because this is where we are. Now, this also means, by the way, that Trump is going to have to cancel their invite publicly to ignore the fact that nobody's going to come, right? Like, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but a whole lot of people quit their jobs at one time, and it seemed like they did, and before they could all quit their jobs, the committee was disbanded. It's going to have to be that sort of thing, right? So how is this going to go? Do the Warriors announce as a team that they're not going, or does Trump announce that he is just not rocking with the NBA? Because if I'm Trump, I'm totally playing up I'm not inviting the NBA champions. That's some red meat to throw to some people that might like you. I hate the NBA guy. I'll be like, yeah, they never should have come in the first place. I think he's down. I think he might be with it. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Coming up next, apparently you guys are bored enough to watch preseason football. In the course of doing that, a lot of you guys notice just how bad Blake Bortles is. How bad? We'll tell you when we come back on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening out at ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Cian Fahey, presnapreads.com, will join us next segment. Cian Fahey will join us to talk about what the state of quarterback play is in the NFL. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. And stop Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. We were talking last segment about, like, cats who roll cutlasses. What's going to happen when there are no more cutlasses to roll? What car are they going to transfer to? The homie Anthony says Agent Cutlass is about to make Doc Brown out of everyday men. You better believe that, right? You better believe that. Also, Shannon, Justin says, I hate the NBA guy still equals racist, right? And that's not to say that just because you don't watch the NBA that you're a racist. But the guy who really hates the NBA and loves telling people how much he hates the NBA, he has a tendency to be racist.
And typically, I hate the NBA guy doesn't really like change too much. He's not embracing change. He would like to keep things the way that they were.
Yes. Perhaps a return to greatness.
Correct, because you don't want to forget the way things were. He doesn't want that to be taken away from him.
At all. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. So I was out last night doing some things, so somebody help me out here. Why was everybody paying so much attention to the Jaguars game? Because people seem to be paying a lot of attention to what Blake Bortles was doing in the Jaguars game. And I kind of feel like all that attention that y'all was actually paying to Blake Bortles and what he did in the Jaguars game, what they call that, shouting proud, like you just wanted to see misery. Like you have to really go out of your way to watch a Jaguars preseason game. Who is it, against the Buccaneers? Right, okay, so unless you local, Chad, that means you get to watch more of it on Hard Knocks? Like, is Blake Bortles going to get to relive this? So how'd it go? Did he throw interceptions?
It wasn't good. He was inaccurate. He was throwing the ball short. He just didn't look comfortable. It's just something's not clicking. It's like Luther Vandross's Jerry Curl, man. Something about it just not.
And the worst thing about Bortles in this situation is there's nothing he could do in the preseason to have you really be like, yo, I think Blake Bortles to turn the corner. I think that this is the year that Blake Bortles puts it all together. There's nothing that could make you think that. However, there is something that he could do apparently to make you think that he's even just as awful as you remember, and that has been done. How bad is it? They were booing him. I heard about as loudly as you ever heard anybody be booed in a preseason game. They got him up out of there, and then they brought in Chad Henne, who, by the way, is still in the league. Yeah. Chad Henne. Was this year 9 for Chad Henne? No, this is year 10 for Chad Henne. Still in the league. Quite possibly the starting quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Why? Because Blake Bortles is that bad. How bad? Listen to your man, Doug Marrone.
I met with both quarterbacks afterwards. I told them what I'm looking for is I'm looking for someone that's going to lead this offense. I'm not happy with the performance today. I'm not going to sit here and BS anyone. I mean, everyone saw it out there. I'm still trying to evaluate who the best person is at that position. I told that to both quarterbacks to lead the offense. But I just want to make sure everyone understands that if you can do this at the quarterback position, you know, all the other positions are very easy to do. So when I sit up here and I talk about earning the right to play, that's what we're doing. We're trying to earn the right to play.
I do have to say this, and you guys help me out if I'm wrong here. But when your man Doug Marrone says, I told these guys I'm looking for somebody to lead this offense, sir, could you be a little bit more specific? Right? Like, I told you, what I'm looking for these guys to do, lead the offense. That is the most nothing thing that you can possibly say. Like, look, I got these two quarterbacks. You know what I'm looking for them to do? Throw the ball. Now, help me out a little bit, homie. Like, we need a little bit more of this. But he seems none too pleased of these guys. And while I said that Chad Henne might not be the starter, actually, Chad Henne might not be the starter. And here's why I say neither of them might be the starter. From Doug Marrone.
Is it possible that your starter is not on the roster?
I need someone to lead this offense. I'm not going to sit here and again, I don't work with the outside the roster stuff. So for me, I can't answer that question. I work with what we have.
Shannon, it sounds like no one should be too comfortable about their jobs.
No one. Like, did he ultimately give a Bennett? I'm not in it.
Yes,
did he give
he
that's
did.
Above my pay grade?
That's exactly what he said. He's like, look, man, my name's Paul, and that's on y'all. Like, he totally punted on this. Congratulations. Is this quarterback on the roster? God, I hope not. Like, that's what I felt like he was saying. It's like, good gracious, I hope not. Like, I wonder, did he watch, like, film on Bortles before he took that job? Because we saw maybe that this was coming. Or is Bortles just at the point where it's all falling apart, right? Where these guys have these difficulties and it all falls apart. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Hit the phone talking John in New York. John, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bo. Thanks for taking my call. Listen, I'm a guy that likes the NBA a lot, but I think it's kind of stupid to say if you don't like the NBA, you're racist.
Well, hold on, John.
Hold on.
No, John. I specifically said that just because you don't like the NBA does not mean you are a racist. I said that specifically.
So what do you say about somebody that doesn't like hockey? I love hockey, and many people don't.
Right.
Soccer.
Well, as I just specifically said, that just because you don't like the NBA does not mean you're a racist. I would say just because you don't like hockey doesn't mean you're a racist.
But you're also saying that most people that don't are.
Oh, no. I'm saying that the people who go out of their way to vocally tell you how much they hate the NBA, and then they tell you about how the guys don't play defense and everything else and how it's a bunch of hoodlums, yeah, normally what they say rings of code and sounds kind of racist. Yeah.
Same with hockey, then.
Well, what racist code do you hear people say when they talk about why they don't watch hockey?
Well, talk about.
No. I'm asking you. Like, do you come encounter people often who are vocal and go out of their way and wear as a badge of honor how they don't watch hockey? Because I don't know any people like that.
Hockey or soccer or soccer.
Well, no. Hold on, buddy. You said hockey, and I'm asking you, do you know those people? Because I don't know any of them.
In the beginning, I said hockey and soccer.
Okay, but I'm asking you this though. Like, do you know those people as it relates to hockey? Because I don't know them. Do you know them? I don't come across those folks.
Yeah, yes, I do.
And do they use coded language when they do it that implies that the players are criminals or lazy? Like, does that come up when people talk about hockey or soccer? Because that does come up when people talk about the NBA, and that's why that one's a little bit different.
I mean, listen, I would say that coded language when it relates to hockey is obviously something that would come up. I mean, coded language.
Well, like what? Like what? I was able to give you examples about the NBA. What are the examples about hockey?
Well, I mean, I guess the examples would be that the number of minorities that play it are very limited.
I feel like you got yourself in the deep water. Forgot you didn't know how to swim. Get back to shore, buddy. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Oh, we got one more call. 888-729-3776, Ted in Cincinnati. Thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, what's going on, Bo? Thanks for the call. I wanted to know, what do you think the chances of the Jags signing Colin Kaepernick? I know I heard a couple of weeks ago that they probably wouldn't sign him because it's a conservative state, and a lot of people wouldn't like his stance.
Yeah, I think the chances of Kaepernick signing with the Jaguars are about as good as the chances of me signing with the Jaguars. I appreciate the call. I think this ship done sailed. Like, we are past the point of every time we see a quarterback open and think, well, maybe that's the place that Kaepernick is going to go. No, I don't think Kaepernick is back in the league. Now, is Jacksonville a place where Kaepernick could go and exist safely politically? I contend that just about all these cities are places like that it would be rough maybe in the beginning, and then ultimately people would get over it once the games start getting played. Like, that's how I feel about all these places, and that includes Jacksonville. And Jacksonville is one of those cities that people view nationally as one where they think of, oh, Jacksonville is crazy racist. Maybe it is. I haven't spent enough time there to really fully say, but, North Florida, South Georgia, not a whole lot of difference between the two. You cross the line, you don't really know that you did. Trust me, I've done that myself. But I think if they got Kaepernick, they'd rock. They'd be all right. At this point, as bad as Bortles and Chad Henne are, man, go walking up and down the street and get like some honest opinions from Jaguars fans about what they'd be willing to endure as it relates to their being a quarterback. I bet they put up with a whole lot.
There was actually a Jaguar fan at the game last night in a custom-made Kaepernick Jags uniform, or jersey, excuse me.
What did he look like?
He didn't like you. I don't believe he looked like you and I, so.
That's where we are, man. Look, that's the thing. Quarterbacks are so scarce. I think the fans would ultimately get over it. But, hey, man, you got Blake Bortles and Chad Henne. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, we got Cian Fahey. Tell us how bad the quarterback play is in the NFL right now. You're listening to ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80. Yeah. Handcrafted. It's all the rage. From flour-pressed soap to homemade hot sauce to artisanal pickles, whatever those are. Well, Firestone Complete Auto Care is glad it's catching on because they've been handcrafting repairs since 1926. And their 4,000 ASE-certified technicians work hard every day to help keep cars running like new. Before people were making organic greeting cards and rock jewelry in their basements, Firestone Complete Auto Care has been hard at work in the garage, tightening, torquing, wrenching, And they back that work with their fixed right promise, guaranteeing your car is fixed right, your repair is priced right, and the work is completed right on time. Keep your car running newer, longer. When the road gets tough, you need a set of tires that can get tough. Right now at Firestone Complete Auto Care, get $70 by mail on a Bridgestone Visa prepaid card when you buy a set of 4 eligible Bridgestone tires. Whatever you drive a Firestone. Offer valid August 10th through October 8th. In-store only. Claim form required. Excludes Blizzak. Restrictions apply. See claim form for eligible tires and details. Prepaid card issued by the Bancorp Bank member FDIC.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Our guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest. Check his work out at presnapreads.com, one of the best film guys out there. His name is Cian Fahey. Now, Cian, we were just talking about Blake Bortles. Now, he was the first quarterback taken in the 2014 draft with a world of physical talent. So what do you think has been his biggest problem in the NFL?
Where do we start? Bortles, it's kind of funny because Bortles played on national TV last night, and they rarely play on national TV, so no one gets to really watch Bortles. And that's what he's looked like for largely his whole career. He runs into sacks, he misses reads, he stares receivers down, he can't throw the ball deep. He was the worst deep passer in the league last year, so you're always seeing Allen Robinson running down the field wide open and turning around looking for the ball and it's going over the sideline or falling short. The problem for Bortles isn't that it's all gone wrong and there's one thing that he needs to fix. This was never good enough to go that high in the first place. The way earlier this offseason, I wrote about him. I said if you took away all the pedigree, I suppose is what you'd call it, if you took away everything else and you just looked at his skill set, he wouldn't make a practice squad in the NFL. The fact that he's kind of got this job and this job guaranteed to him is a really poor reflection on the Jaguars, and the fact that he's played fewer than 4 quarters in this preseason and now they're talking about they need a new quarterback when he hasn't changed and when he's played like that over the whole course of his career is kind of just a reflection of how dysfunctional they are right now.
So do you think that Chad Henne would be a better option for them in the short term?
Man, I don't think he would be a better option, but it's not like it's going to be a noticeable upgrade. The only thing that Henne actually does well is get the ball out on time, but he can't really throw the ball accurately. He's going to make bad decisions. He's going to take sacks too often as well. So the reality is they needed to get a quarterback this offseason, and they ignored it. They went for Leonard Fournette, or they ignored all the free agents that are available, and we obviously know about Colin Kaepernick, but that's kind of, we're at the point now where there's no point even entertaining that idea.
All right, we're talking to Cian Fahey of presnapreads.com here on The Right Time. Now, what did you think about Jay Cutler, what he did last night for Miami?
Jay Cutler found out what it's been like to be Ryan Tannehill for the last couple of years, because in just 2 drives they had offensive line penalties, took away 2 big plays. One of them was a good throw by Cutler. They had 2 very well-blocked screens. One of them was dropped by Devontae Parker. One of them, Jarvis Landry, for some reason, turned around and ran backwards to lose 4 yards. And then he had he missed a screenplay that would have gone for a first down. But the biggest issue there is you kind of saw how conservative the offense had to be. And there was the one kind of only deep shot they took. Cutler threw a slightly overthrown pass, but still maybe a catchable pass. And Eric Weddle nearly intercepted it because Parker lost it in the air. He couldn't track the ball properly and locate it. So Cutler, it was fine. He was okay. He didn't have to do too much. He didn't do too little either. He kind of only completed what he could complete. But the problem is that offense isn't built to carry a quarterback like him. So over the course of the year, we'll find out. But I'll be surprised if they can do anything more than they did even last year.
Now, you are bullish on Ryan Tannehill. What do you see that I don't?
I don't know if it's necessarily what I see with him specifically. I see a great deep ball. I see a guy who avoids interceptions, an athlete who can get out and make plays with his feet. He throws on the run to either side of the field really, really well. There might be some processing issues, but I think where we probably differ is I think his supporting cast has been a lot worse than people realize. Like, the receiving core is okay. It drops too many passes. But the offensive line there has been a major issue. It's been to the point that the whole offense can't function. Like, if you look at who he's played with on the offensive line, Richie Incognito is the only guy who's gone elsewhere and actually become a reliable starter. Everyone else is either out of the league or fighting for a roster spot. And those are guys that he was relying on to start for him. And it was always at the stage where Tannehill would need plays to develop for a 5-step drop or whatever. He would need 2.5 seconds for the play to work, and he wasn't getting that time. And it happened last year after the Titans game, I believe it was, where Adam Gase went to the podium after the game and all the reporters are saying, are you going to change the quarterback? What's wrong with the quarterback? We need to start the quarterback. And he literally just sat there and went, look, these plays are designed to work a certain way. The offensive line aren't letting them happen that way, so it's not the quarterback's fault. And then he went and cut 2 offensive linemen the very next day, something that Joe Philbin would never have done. He would have kept trotting them out over and over again. So I don't know if it's necessarily a major disagreement there, because I don't think Tannehill's a great player. I think he's a good quarterback. But I think it's the offensive line and the receivers. I just think everyone overrates them a little bit.
All right, John Cian Fahey here, presnapreads.com, here on The Right Time. Now, with Cutler and what you saw, did you see anything to give you a hint on what kind of throwing arm he has after having a torn labrum last year at age, 34 he is now?
I think it looks all right, but my concern there is less what he can do now. My concern is, like with all older quarterbacks, how's it going to look after 8, 9, 10 weeks? One of the things I learned last year inadvertently, without actually going out and looking for it, was that all of the older quarterbacks, no matter who you are, even Tom Brady, at the very end of the year, their performance would completely drop off. Like the accuracy numbers would drop down, the interceptable numbers all went up. Phillip Rivers, halfway through last season, his arm basically gave up on him. Drew Brees at the very end of the season had his worst game in the final game of the regular season against the Falcons. Eli Manning had problems in the playoffs as well, and I think that's going to hit Cutler too. That's assuming he plays 16 games. That might be as much of a concern as the arm. But the arm looked fine. It wasn't great. It wasn't difficult. But that's kind of a problem with the play calling too. It was so conservative that you only really had that one deep shot to Devontae Parker that he slightly overthrew.
Well, the one thing you mentioned there is about older quarterbacks in the deep ball, especially as the year goes on, because people get mad at me when I mention that Tom Brady isn't the guy that he used to be on the deep ball, and they act like I'm just making this up. But you seem to verify that this is a bit of a concern with him and other guys his age.
Yeah, well, the thing about the Patriots is when they throw the ball deep there, it's shot plays. It's a very hard play fake. It's probably one guy going down the field, Chris Hogan, probably Brandon Cooks this year. So he doesn't have to actually fit the ball into a tight window. So when they take a shot, it's a smart thing to do. And at the start of the year last year, he was actually making throws that you would never expect him to make, where he was fitting the ball into tighter windows, throwing receivers open, throwing the ball 60 yards on a rope, was something that he never actually did before, except when he kind of had Randy Moss. It's easy when you have Randy Moss. But when he was doing that at the start of the year, but by the end of the year, he was way more reliant on these plays where the receiver is wide open. If you go into the playoff game against the Steelers, I believe it was, where they had the flea flicker where Chris Hogan's wide open, it's a 30-yard throw, and it's a completion, and it sounds good in the numbers, but it's not really a difficult throw. Like a guy like Brady is never been someone who's reliant on his deep ball anyway. The reason Brady is great is because his mind is so fast, so far ahead of everyone else, and because he always gets the ball out quick to shorter and intermediate routes. So you can talk about the deep ball, and we should, because we should talk about all these things, but it's just not as big of an emphasis for him in that offense, which is also kind of interesting because now they have Brandon Cooks, who is largely just the guy who goes deep.
All right, we're talking to Cian Fahey, presnapreads.com, here on The Right Time. Last thing before we go, Jameis Winston, we're going to hear a lot about him because he's being featured on Hard Knocks in this way. What kind of leap, or do you expect to jump from him this year?
I've been one of these people who's been way down on Winston because my numbers, he always comes out as really inaccurate and he's always throwing too many interceptions. And the last week, the first preseason game was really, really impressive. He was really accurate. The second preseason game last night was really, really accurate again. Part of that was the Jaguars weren't getting any pressure at all on him. And then you kind of got to that point towards the end of, I believe it was midway through the second quarter, where he's in the red zone and for some reason he throws the ball straight up in the air and throws it straight to a defender, and the refs bailed him out. But as long as he can limit those, and because I think he's always going to be a guy who makes mistakes, but he's consistently going to make phenomenal plays. And now you've got Deshaun Jackson there, you've got Mike Evans there, you've got O.J. Howard, you've got Cameron Brace. Those are 4 phenomenal receivers. That might be the best receiving core in the league. So I think Winston, if he can just reach that level of competency with his accuracy, he's got a brilliant mind. He's got brilliant reaction to pressure. He moves well in the pocket. He's relatively okay at extending plays. I think he gets a little bit overrated in that area. But overall, he has a skill set where he could be one of the best quarterbacks in the league with ease, as long as he just gets that accuracy sorted out.
All right, that's Cian Fahey. Check him out, presnapreads.com. Also follow him on Twitter, CIANAF. My man, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
All right, now ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. More independent agents sell Progressive than any other brand. Find an agent at Progressive.com today. Now, that's Progressive.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks to Cian Fahey of presnapreads.com for joining us the last segment. Howard Bryant of ESPN will join us in the 5 o'clock Eastern hour. Talk about this situation with Yawkey Way in Boston. Baseball season is heating up. Tune in tomorrow as the Pirates host the Cardinals. Coverage begins at 3 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNradio.com, and the ESPN app. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. I made mention to I Hate the NBA guy, the guy that goes on and loves to tell everybody about how much he hates the NBA, and typically then tells you how they don't play defense. Shannon, what else does he like to say? They don't play defense. What is,
selfish. They don't like to play defense. They don't like to pass the ball. Everything is isolation. Everything's about me. They're attention seeking.
Yeah, they also really get bothered by traveling.
Oh yeah, they carry on. They carry every play.
Yes. But anyway, I Hate the NBA guy team tends to use a lot of coded language that sounds awfully racist, right? So it's not to say if you don't like the NBA that you are necessarily racist. It just happens that normally when we ask people about it and they explain, it tends to sound a bit racist. Let's hit the phone to talk to Steve in North Carolina. Steve, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, man, thanks for taking my call. And I'm glad you kind of clarified that a little bit.
Actually,
because,
hold on one second, Steve. I didn't clarify anything. That's the same thing I said over and over again every time we talked about this.
Okay, well then, give me a chance to say what. So I vehemently don't like the NBA. But for many of the same reasons that you've discussed, they don't play defense. It's two guys playing basketball, three guys. Wait a minute, Bomani. Hey, Bomani. It's all.
I've listed.
Okay.
I've listed.
It's all. Hey, it's all what you grew up with, man. I'm from North Carolina. I went to University of North Carolina, much like I think you did at one point in time. And I just love college basketball. And it has nothing to do with UNC. It just has something to do with good college basketball, team defense. I would much rather watch Butler play NC A&T or McNeese State play Gonzaga, because you're going to get 5 guys, 7 guys out there playing basketball, man. And to really say that
wait a minute though, Steve. You really think the dudes in the NBA don't play defense and that they don't play team basketball?
There are about 3 or 4 teams that I enjoy watching play. I'm not a Golden State fan, but they play great team basketball. I think LeBron James. Listen, coming from the perspective of being a North Carolinian, growing up in Wilmington, North Carolina, I'm a MJ homer. But I honestly think that LeBron James is the best basketball player to ever play in the NBA, and that's because he does it on both ends of the court. But guys like that, teams like Golden State, that's not typically the NBA. I mean, it's a lack of, when you have guys that are getting paid millions of dollars shoot 50% from the free throw line. I mean, and that's what. Hey, why
does it matter how much money they make though?
Because that's what they get paid to do, Bomani. Because hey, that's what they get paid to do. They wake up in the morning, they go to the gym. That's their job. That's what they do. And granted, if you're going to get paid that much money, then there's a little bit of pride in ownership.
Steve, you might not be racist necessarily, but you are totally I hate the NBA guy in a way that doesn't make sense. There's so many good defensive players in the NBA. The offensive players are just awesome, right? Like, you really think that guys don't play team basketball in the NBA? Like, when's the last time you really watched the NBA?
Well, I tell you that that's a great point, because it's gotten to the point I don't. The only thing I see it is on your network where they show the highlights, where probably 98% of the highlights are pick and rolls or a pick and pop. So and the other 3 guys are standing on the baseline waiting to get the rebound.
It sounds like you haven't watched the NBA game in 20 years. Like, thanks for calling. Shannon, what is he talking about? Like, what league is that he's talking about?
If anything, teams and guys are more unselfish now than they've ever been. Like,
they've cut down on the ISO in the NBA so much by making rules that were more like college to necessitate ball movement and everything else. They'd be like, well, so obviously you watch the NBA. Well, I only watch highlight. Oh, dude, he said he'd rather watch Butler and A&T play. Shane, how much would they have to pay you to watch Butler and A&T?
Well, is A&T's band going to be there?
It's a fair question.
All right, okay. All right, well, we can negotiate then.
You don't want to see Butler's band?
Butler got a band?
That's a good question. Do they have a band? Somebody will look that up. I feel like they definitely got an orchestra, right? So maybe would you like to see the Butler Marching Orchestra, perhaps? Maybe that's the one? Yeah, I don't know. Once again, man, people get defensive about this with the NBA. Real defensive about it. Now, I have made this point, though, for a while. That, like, if you're a type that grew up in a college basketball market, I can see how it can be slow for you to warm up to the NBA because it is a different game. I just don't know why you always got to come out here and act like the players are lazy, as if you can get that far and then be lazy. And then, well, we got guys that make all these millions. See, then you start pocket watching. That is never a good look, baby. That is never, ever, 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 ever a good look. All right, now, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Coming up on the 5 o'clock Eastern hour, the right time. And coming up next, Marshawn Lynch with classic Marshawn Lynch sounds. You won't want to miss this on ESPN Radio.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back Monday for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That is at Bomani_Jones. Kids, if you ever thought that someone would accuse me of being racist for asking if a school had a band, today was the day. Shannon, remember that we were just joking a second ago about the dude talking about Butler playing A&T, and I don't know why anybody would want to watch A&T play basketball, but whatever. And so I said, you talked about the bands. I was like, does Butler have a band? I don't know if Butler got a band. It's a small little private school, right? Man hit me up, Shannon, and was like, well, what's the difference between asking about that and asking if North Carolina A&T has a swim team? We can't have no fun with y'all, can we? Can we?
Yeah,
by the way,
and to make those people happy, yes, Butler does have a marching band.
I was going to ask you to look that up. Do they have a football team?
Okay, I have to look that up too.
I was like, because where they be marching otherwise? They just be out. Like we just go march. We just go march down the street. We are on call for any parade you might have. We are free every Saturday. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. So you guys may have heard that Marshawn Lynch did not stand for the National Anthem in the Raiders preseason game over the weekend. Now, I had said that, we're probably not going to get anything out of Marshawn Lynch because he doesn't necessarily feel obligated to ask our questions. But for whatever reason, the Raiders brought Marshawn Lynch out to answer some questions, right? What was this, yesterday he came out there to answer some questions? So Marshawn Lynch came out there to answer some questions. And I imagine all them dudes that are standing there in the media like, you ask them. No. All right. Well, you ask them, right? Because nobody wants to be the one to have to ask Marshawn Lynch about this. No one does. But someone finally decided to be the one to ask Marshawn Lynch about it. And, of course, he had to try to, soften it up just a little bit to let Marshawn know, I ain't really want to ask you about this, but, Pop's tripping. Check this out.
The elephant in the room on Saturday. There's a lot of attention towards you not standing for the National Anthem.
I think that elephant just left the room because a little mouse ran in here. Didn't they say elephants are scared of mouses or something? Them left, cousin.
How liberating your life must be if your job involves talking to media and you have decided I will do either one of two things. I will not talk to media or I will just say whatever in the world. Can we play that elephant in the room clip one more time, please? Marshawn Lynch taking your cliche and wiping his behind with it.
The elephant in the room on Saturday. There's a lot of attention towards you not standing for the National Anthem.
I think that elephant just left the room because a little mouse ran in here. Didn't they say elephants are scared of mouses or something? Them left, cousin.
Well, at that point, you would think, leave this alone, right? Somebody was like, I'm going to try this one more time.
People are wearing your jersey in the Coliseum Saturday. Will it matter to you if they sit or stand for the anthem?
So when we run 74 or something like that, where I got to scan, read on, on both sides, that'd be pretty difficult. But, for the most part, I'm a veteran, so I can make it work.
Did that dude really think that he was going to ask that question to get an answer, Shannon? First of all, what a bad question. Am I wrong on that one? What my man say? If a fan is wearing your jersey, do you care if they stand for the anthem? What?
I honestly think, what did he anticipate? What did he think that he was going to get from Marshawn with that question?
And have you ever been given any reason to think that Marshawn Lynch give damn the first about anybody wearing a Marshawn Lynch jersey? Right? You think Marshawn Lynch is out here like, hey, cuz, if you buy my jersey, man, I don't want you to stand for the anthem ever. Just sit down and stay where you are, cousin. Right? What, you think Marshawn Lynch got a list of rules? Like, hey, if you're gonna wear my number, man, you're gonna have to be a G about this, and this how the G's get down. No, what you think? You got somebody walking up and down the crowd? Hey, this dude right there standing for the anthem wearing number 24, man. You know what to do. No, it's not going to be that. It's not going to be that at all. So what you wind up with from Lynch, and I am very curious as to what Lynch actually thinks about this. Like, I would love to hear his rationale for not standing for the national anthem. All right, I'm very curious. I want to know what his thought process is. I just know he's not going to tell me. Like, I know there's no chance that he's going to tell me. And on top of the fact there's no chance he's going to tell me, I'm absolutely not going to trick him into telling me. Like, somehow that dude thought he was going to get in the back door and give Marshawn Lynch answer. Let's get that one more time. But the dude was like, well, what about the fans? Like, what if somebody's wearing your jersey, Marshawn? What about?
People are wearing your jersey in the Coliseum Saturday. Will it matter to you if they sit or stand for the anthem?
So when we run 74 or something like that, where I got to scan, read on, on both sides, that'd be pretty difficult. But, for the most part, I'm a veteran, so I can make it work.
For the most part, I'm a veteran, so I can make it work. Chad, I want to start saying that anytime somebody asks me a question, I don't feel like answering. But, I'm a veteran. For the most part, I can make it work.
I am surprised. Like, we got a presser from Marshawn, and Marshawn gave answers at a presser. Think about how far we have come.
But I don't even know why the Raiders sent him out there. Like, what did they think was going to happen? Like, Marshawn, the media is going to want to ask you some questions about that. All right, cuz, let's do this. Knowing damn well he wasn't going to give you no answer. There was no chance he was going to wind up giving you an answer. By the way, I don't think he's obligated to give an answer, right? So I want to, draw a line here between, what I think is happening here with Marshawn Lynch. And honestly, I think it applied to Colin Kaepernick also when this first got started. Not so much anymore, obviously. But I don't think you should have to explain yourself for not standing up for the national anthem. I don't, right? You did not feel like it for whatever reason. You don't have to defend that to me because you're not obligated to do this. For whatever reason you chose that, I'll go ahead and leave that alone, right? So with Lynch, no, I don't need to know what your theoretical basis is behind it because I personally don't care if you stand for the anthem or not. So I don't need him to explain himself. Now, if you're the type that feels like not only should you stand for the anthem, you should have to stand for the anthem and somehow not doing so is an affront to you, then maybe you're here asking questions in a way that I'm not inclined to. But I don't think it's an affront. I think it's more of an affront to try to demand that somebody do that than it is that someone not stand for the anthem at all, given what, all this stuff's supposed to stand for. All right. Now, let's juxtapose that against, say, Tom Brady when he put that Make America Great Again hat in his locker. Tom Brady put that hat right over the Gillette logo that was in his locker, a Gillette logo that is there so that it can be seen when guys do interviews. I feel confident saying that Brady put that hat in his locker and had it there sitting in the way that it was sitting because he wanted people to see it. And I felt like once you made a decision that you were going to do that specifically because you were going to have eyeballs on you, then you needed to explain it, right? I don't feel like the reason that Kaepernick did what he did or the reason that Marshawn Lynch did this was specifically so that people could see them. I don't think that's the reason why it happened. I think they were just like, no, this is something that I'm just not going to do. So I feel like with Brady, if Brady had not gone out of his way to show this to us, I wouldn't have any questions about what it is that he was saying. And that's the reason why I judge him in the end when he says, I just don't really want to talk about this when you're the one who threw it in our faces. Marshawn Lynch didn't throw this in our faces. He just sat down. That's it. And I feel like that is a markedly different situation than this. So, no, I don't feel like Lynch owes any level of apology, no more than I feel like anybody owes me an explanation as to, so why are you standing for the national anthem? Right? Like, I don't need you to come tell me what your reasons are for standing for the national anthem, right? Like, so what are you standing for when you do that? What do you feel like this represents? I just want to make sure that you're truly standing for what America is. I don't want you to just be out here standing just to stand. That's not putting all for America. You're just trying to be with the crowd. I want people that put all for America with nobody standing. I mean, I could do that, right? You absolutely could do that with anybody, but we don't question those dudes. And if we're not going to question dudes and make them explain why they stand, then I'm not necessarily inclined to question dudes and make them explain why they didn't. Now, if a dude is doing like Malcolm Jenkins, for example, and he's standing and he got that fist up, all right, well, very clearly you want to say something. I would like to know what this thing is that you were saying. Marshawn Lynch, I don't know if he's saying anything at all. And if he doesn't feel like telling me, cool, that's fine. But if you were Jenkins, for example, and you went out of your way to be seen, and he's absolutely, I think, going out of his way to be seen when you throw the fist up, then, yeah, you got to be able to answer for it. Same way you got to answer for it if you Tom Brady with the hat in your locker. Marshawn Lynch, even if he did have to answer for it, which one of y'all going to make him? 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, the good time wagon continues. Sounds like they're going to change the name of the street outside Fenway Park. At least the owner of the Red Sox wants to. Find out why on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Howard Bryant of ESPN will join us next segment. Howard Bryant of ESPN will join us at 5:30 Eastern. Nothing makes a summer birthday or anniversary more magical than 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you get another dozen absolutely free. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Last segment, I was saying Marshawn Lynch, who did not explain why he did not stand for the national anthem. I don't think he owes anybody an explanation for why he did not stand for the national anthem. He owes no more explanation than any player owes for standing for the national anthem. Let's hit the phones and talk to Michael from Ohio. Michael, thanks for calling The Right Time.
Hey, what's going on, Bo?
Doing all right?
Hey, I think while he doesn't owe us an explanation, what is the point of sitting if you're not going to tell somebody why you're protesting?
But why does it have
there
to
can be many
my
reasons
question, though, why does it have to have a point?
The point of sitting and protesting is to draw light to something.
But hold on. We don't even know if it's a protest because he hasn't said. So I'm asking you, like, why does it have to have a point?
Because if he doesn't stand for the anthem, it is offending everybody who ever fought for the colors.
No, it doesn't.
I'm a vet, and
No,
I think it's somebody's right to not stand. But if you're not going to stand, at least have a reason for not standing.
Yeah, but you're not. Do you understand that you're not every vet? Like, not every vet is taking this the way that you were taking it as such. So basically, you feel like he owes you an explanation.
No, he does not owe me an explanation. But if you're going to protest something, tell people what you're protesting
for. Right, but what if it's not a protest?
I got no problem with it.
But what if it's not a protest, right? Like, it could just be your own personal, individual decision. So, for example, if Marshawn Lynch were a Jehovah's Witness, for example, and he decided he was not, or whatever, any religion that does not want to pay homage in this sort of way, right? Is that a protest, or is that just, this is something I do and that's something I don't do?
But there's precedent. This is the first time he's done it.
He says he's done it for years. He says he's done it for years.
I don't know either way. I guess I would have to see proof of that. But there would be somebody commenting if he's been sitting for years for the national anthem.
No, actually, I have questions about that because it's clear that people never really paid attention to it, given the fact that Colin Kaepernick did it twice and it took the second time before anybody noticed. Maybe people just weren't watching.
Maybe. You might be correct, but
I got to go, Michael. Thanks for calling, though. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. So, John Henry, not the one with the hammer. John Henry, the one that owns the Red Sox. He wrote a letter or an email, something. He wrote to the Boston Herald and explained to them that he wants to change the name of Yawkey Way. Yawkey Way is a street that runs outside of Fenway Park. The reason is that Tom Yawkey's name in baseball circles is very much so associated with racism. Yawkey owned the Red Sox from 1933 to 1976. The Red Sox were famously the last team in Major League Baseball to integrate, and then even after that, it was seen as a place that players of color would not want to then go play. Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't the Red Sox have a chance to sign Willie Mays and passed up on it?
I believe that is correct, yes.
Yeah, check that out just to be sure, right? But this has been the rap. Like, Tom Yawkey, there are certain guys that, right or wrong, wind up getting the brunt, or their names become like the one that is associated with a level of racism within their sport. College basketball, for example, it's Adolph Rupp. Like, he's the one that people associate as the racist of all the races that are in that sport. And you can go around, there's always like a guy that people put it on. Yawkey, right or wrong, is the guy that this is put on top of the fact that it's Boston and the perceptions that people then have about Boston. Well, John Henry says he wants to change the name of Yawkey Way, perhaps the David Ortiz Way or Big Papi Way. That is what he would like to do. The other part, though, is that John Henry does not have say-so over naming the streets. Now, the people behind the Yawkey Foundation, which does a lot of charity work in Boston, they are a bit mortified, and I don't blame them necessarily, right? Because, yeah, they're using the Yawkey name, and they're doing a certain level of good work, and now John Henry has come out and reminded everybody about Tom Yawkey being a racist, and now they're like, whoa, 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 don't associate us with that. No, 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 that's bad. Here's my question. If you're listening in Boston, maybe you're not. I understand we're on the air there, but they tell me not too many of you guys listen. That's cool, but I'm being serious with you. Do y'all care? Like, if you take Tom Yawkey's name off that street, do you care? Because one thing that did not happen while Tom Yawkey owned the team in those 43 years between 1933 and 1976, Shane, you want to guess what that one thing is I'm going to say that did not happen? They didn't win a championship, right? So, like, what do you have, right? What is there to wrap your arms around when it comes to Tom Yawkey? Y'all did not win a championship. I think they went to the playoffs one time during Ted Williams' whole career there. So you did not win a championship. Like, so would you care? Like, I'm really curious as to whether or not anybody actually cares if they take that name off that street and replace it with David Ortiz's, right? If they had changed that name and didn't have a reason, would anybody care? And I think that part is an important delineation, and here is why. You're not going to convince me that people in this country, all across the country, cared as much about Confederate statues, right? You're just never going to get me there to that point where I think this. And so I noticed something interesting that when the president sent a tweet about people taking down Confederate statues, he called them our statues. And I'm like, who is we? Like, you're from New York, right? Like, you ain't even from down there, right? You ain't even from around there. And you talk about these being our statues. Like, who is we when you talk about them being our statues? And so one thing that I think has come up when people talk about taking these statues down that I think is a big part of it is people don't like the idea that they are being told that this expression of whiteness is verboten. You see what I'm saying? Because the one thing about Confederate statues are they are white. They are outright expressions of whiteness. There's no way around it. It is by definition not something that is meant to celebrate anything other than whiteness and white people, right? And commemorate a war that was fought in large part in the name of whiteness. Like, that's what those are. So when my man says our, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute now. Like, who exactly is it that we're talking about here? And that got me to thinking, man, like, these statues that people ain't never gone to see, it's not like these are statues necessarily that people pose next to or any of that stuff. It isn't any of that, right? But the idea that somebody can tell you that these statues are being taken down and this expression of whiteness, like, why is this the one that jumps out? Like, that's the fair question that I have. So I wonder on this thing with Tom Yawkey, if you were saying that we were going to change the name of Yawkey Way to David Ortiz Way because David Ortiz was the man who was there for the 3 World Series championships, do you think the reaction would be the same or different than it would be if you told somebody we're going to take the name of Tom Yawkey off of Yawkey Way because Tom Yawkey is a racist? Right? You see what? You understand the point that I'm making there? Is if I gave you no reason, would you have a problem or would you be cool? If I gave you a reason, Would you have a problem or would you be cool? If you would have a problem with either one, why would you have the problem? If you were cool with either one, why would you be cool? And I think there is where you get to the bottom of what drives a lot of these things where people get charged up about taking names off of stuff. But I really do wonder, like, if you're someone with an association to the Boston Red Sox, I can't speak for you. I'm just wondering, if you got an association with that team, do you mind them taking the name off of that street? And by the way, John Henry said that he wanted to do this a while ago, but that people told him that it was a can of worms that he did not want to get into. Like, city government's like, ooh, I don't know, we're going to make the white people mad if we do that. And I'm asking, do y'all really care about Tom Yawkey in that way? Do you care? If you don't, that's fine. If you do, that's fine. But I'm not in a position to say exactly what's going on here because I don't know how much people care about a guy who owned a baseball team that never won a championship while he was the owner. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, we'll talk to Howard Bryant of ESPN on why the need to change Yawkey Way is nothing new. You listen to ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80. Handcrafted, salt to rage. From flour pressed soap to homemade hot sauce to artisanal pickles, whatever those are. Well, Firestone Complete Auto Care is glad it's catching on because they've been handcrafting repairs since 1926. And their 4,000 ASE certified technicians work hard every day to help cars running like new. Before people were making organic greeting cards and rock jewelry in their basements, Firestone Complete Auto Care has been hard at work in the garage, tightening, torquing, wrenching. And they back that work with their Fix Right promise, guaranteeing your car's fixed right, your repairs priced right, and the work is completed right on time. Keep your car running newer, longer. When the road gets rough, you need a set of tires that can get tough. Right now at Firestone Complete Auto Care, you get $70 by mail on a Bridgestone Visa prepaid card when you buy a set of 4 eligible Bridgestone tires. Whatever you drive a Firestone. Offer valid August 10th through October 8th. In-store only. Claim form required. Excludes Blizzak. Restrictions apply. See claim form for eligible tires and details. Prepaid card issued by the Bancorp Bank member, FDIC.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Our guest joined us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest, senior writer at ESPN, the magazine. His name is Howard Bryant. Now, Howard, we were just talking about the idea of changing the name of Yawkey Way, perhaps after David Ortiz, but it sounds like more important to John Henry is it just not being Yawkey Way. Now, you're from Boston. Does Tom Yawkey carry any resonance in 2017?
Well, I think that name will always carry resonance with the Boston Red Sox and the city of Boston to a big extent, simply because of the venerable nature of that name. I mean, you cannot separate the Red Sox from Tom Yawkey, depending on, I mean, especially if you're of a given age. I mean, the Red Sox, it's a dynasty, Bo. I mean, you had from 1933 to 2002, the Yawkey family owned that team. I don't think you can separate it. However, I do think that what John Henry is also thinking here is create a new history. Maybe it's time. It's time to not have that name overshadow everything about Boston, and especially because that team has done so much in the 15 years that they've owned it. Maybe this is the last piece for him.
Well, what else is there to the Yawkey legacy? Because I'm not from Boston, and I associate him with them being the last team to integrate. I don't know what more there is for me to consider.
Well, the only thing that there is to consider with Tom Yawkey is money. It's money and also the Jimmy Fund, because the one thing the Red Sox are associated with is that the amount of money that they've raised for cancer research, that does go to Tom Yawkey. When the Boston Braves left for Milwaukee in 1952, the Red Sox took over the Jimmy Fund, and over the last 70 years, obviously, have raised millions of dollars in cancer research. However, there's no separation when it comes to the Red Sox and Tom Yawkey. Race is some point going to be there because of the Jackie Robinson story and the fact that the Red Sox didn't sign a black free agent until 1992. So I think that what John Henry's doing is thinking also about legacy. Now that if you look at what that team has done since they bought the team in January of 2002, there's only one piece left, and that is the Yawkey name and the racist legacy. Championship, check. Championship 2, check. Championship 3, check. You've got Pedro there. You've got David Ortiz. You still have to deal with the Adam Jones situation in the fans. That's Boston being Boston in a lot of ways. But there's only one other piece legacy-wise if you're John Henry. What have I done to turn this entire franchise around. The final piece would be to take Tom Yaki's name off of that street. And once that happens, you have an entirely new franchise from when he purchased it.
All right, we're talking to Howard Bryant of ESPN, the magazine, on the right time. And I was going to ask you about how this ties into the Red Sox reaction to the Adam Jones situation, because while there were people in the city who tried to act like it did not happen, the Red Sox seemed to try to own that as quickly as possible and deal with it.
Well, they had to, and because once again, I think that one of the really interesting things about what's taken place right now is that this moment in time is reverberating across all kinds of issues and all kinds of components. I think that whether you're talking about the post-Ferguson America, whether you're talking about the post-election America, whatever you want to talk about in terms of the divisions that we have, I found it very interesting to me that those movements took place from the ground up, whether it was people, how they voted or people taken to the streets and protested. Very interesting that this one's coming from the owner himself. And so that tells me that John Henry's been thinking about this for a long time. It also tells me that maybe this was a last straw. Maybe Adam Jones was the last straw for him. Because let's not forget that in addition to Adam Jones, you also had David Price and a bunch of people last season saying, sure, they heard a bunch of catcalls and stuff from the crowd during the season. Maybe this is the final piece for John Henry saying, look, enough is enough. I think that, and maybe Charlottesville has a lot to do with it too, where everybody sort of has had that last straw moment, and maybe this is his last straw moment.
All right, now, are you noticing that this kind of feels like last straw really across sports here? We've had Kevin Durant and what he had to say about Trump. We saw LeBron. I don't think either of them necessarily said very much, but it's as much as we've seen athletes in their position say in quite a long time. Like, what do you expect to see from this upcoming season?
Well, I think that we're going to see a lot of things that we haven't seen before. I think that on the one hand, you're seeing the pressure. I don't think it's a coincidence that you've got Jack Del Rio coming out talking about the national anthem, even though this isn't about the national anthem, or John Lynch talking about the national anthem, or Jerry Jones and Jason Garrett talking about it. I think it's sort of a preemptive strike. I think seeing Marshawn Lynch sit down and Malcolm Jenkins doing his thing and now Chris Long joining him, I think this is a period where you're going to see a lot of people feel like you've got to make a choice. And I don't think there's a lot of places to go anymore. I think that this is one of these moments, and I appreciated Des Bryant saying, hey, I don't feel like talking about it, I want to focus on football. Well, I really think that we're at a period right now where there's no escape. Everybody is involved in this, whether they want to be or whether they don't.
All right, talking to Howard Bryant of ESPN, the magazine. Now, what have you thought about coaches like Hugh Jackson and Jason Garrett, both of whom said, Jason Garrett said it's sacred to us. He didn't seem to give any room for guys to have a level of dissent. And then you had Hugh Jackson, who stated very clearly on one level how he felt about the anthem and then put out a statement today kind of walking it back.
Well, I think that in Jason Garrett's case and in Hugh Jackson's case, I disagreed with both of them because I feel like, that paternalistic nature of sports is one of the last things that's got to go. I'm sorry, if I'm Marshawn Lynch and I'm a grown man, I'm not going to have another guy who's 10 years older than me talk to me like I'm a child. And so this is sort of the price that we're all going to have to pay for this if you're a coach. You call them men, you treat them like men, but you're going to tell them what they can do and what they can't do. I don't think that's going to fly because of their labor situation. Obviously, in our labor situation, it's different. You have to listen to what your bosses say way more than they do. But on the other hand, I do think that if you're Hugh Jackson, I listened to that and I said to myself, okay, anytime you're going to say something and then add a but to it, then you don't respect what's happening. You obviously don't want this taking place. And I feel like we talked about this not too long ago, that if you're going to couch this through the framework of the national anthem, then I think that you are purposely distorting it. You're not paying attention. And I think that, if you go ask Hugh Jackson, okay, Hugh, what do you think about police brutality? I think he'll give you a different answer. And he's going to box himself in. What they're trying to do is they're trying to avoid a moment that you can't avoid. And obviously Jason Garrett's doing the same thing, which is why if you keep this conversation on the framework of the national anthem, then obviously you gain sympathy for it. But if you frame it if you put it in a different framework of ideals and who are we and what do we stand for, especially after Charlottesville, then I don't think these coaches are going to be able to tell players the things that they're telling them. I think it's going to be very, very difficult to get away with that right now.
All right, that is Howard Bryant, senior writer at ESPN, the magazine. My man, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right, now, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Now you can test drive Snapshot if you have insurance with another company. See how much you can save before you switch.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Our guest join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks to Howard Bryant of ESPN for joining us last segment. Tune into an NL Central rivalry on Sunday Night Baseball as the Pirates host the Cardinals live from Williamsport. Coverage of Sunday Night Baseball begins at 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNradio.com, and the ESPN app, and at 7 p.m. on ESPN. Shannon, Williamsport, isn't that what they do, the Little League?
Exactly. That's the thing. Making these guys feel like kids again.
I mean, are they going to be on like a Little League field? Pitching from 60 feet, 200-foot fences?
That would be exciting, but unfortunately, no.
That game would also never end. By the way, it would be nothing but strikeouts and home runs.
The 5-run rule. Every inning, 5-run rule.
Skunk! All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. So Hugh Jackson came out there. What was it, yesterday? Hugh Jackson came out, and he decided he wanted to make sure everybody knew that he was all about this national anthem life. He was here for it, right? And he's like, yo, we going to stand for this national anthem, at least if I have my way. Here's Hugh Jackson.
I think everybody has a right to do, and I get it, but the national anthem means a lot to myself personally, an organization, or football team. I hope, again, I can't speak. I haven't really talked to our team about it. I would hope we don't have those issues. I understand there's a lot going on in the world. I like to just keep it here. What we deal with, we try to deal with as a team in our closed environment. We talk about things, but hopefully that won't happen.
Hopefully that won't happen. When your boss says hopefully that won't happen, that means that bet not happen. Right? Is that a fair point to make? That if your boss says hopefully this won't happen, that sounds a lot like you better not. You bet not. And see, the thing for me on that is I can understand if Hugh Jackson takes that as a personal view. I am amazed, though, that people really feel like you got the right to infringe upon what other, adults decide they are going to do, right? I mean, you got your right to do it, but there's not a whole lot of but to the you have your right to do it part of it. You kind of got to leave it alone at that point. And on this one, NFL teams have gone kind of hard to make sure that everybody knows they're not going to infringe upon guys' rights, because I think they're more concerned with the backlash that comes from looking like they're shutting people down than they are from the backlash of guys making demonstrations during the national anthem. Like, they get that. I still contend that after that Kaepernick thing went down, the way that so many teams were like, hey, do what you like, that implies they talk to the lawyers, and the lawyers are like, hey, man, we really can't do anything about this. Y'all just probably need to just learn how to deal with it before we wind up in court and nobody wants to go to court. Anyway, apparently somebody had to talk with Hugh Jackson and was like, dog, I think you need to rethink what it was that you were saying. And this is what Hugh Jackson had to say today while offering a prepared statement.
There are issues in our country right now that are far bigger than football, and I understand that and respect that as well. The issues do impact our players and will compel them to react in many different ways. My personal feelings is that over the last season, we've seen players come under unfair scrutiny for protesting during the anthem, mainly because the focus has become on whether or not a player is being disrespectful to the flag or military, and not on the issue and cause attempting to be addressed by the protest. The intent of my comments was not to discourage individual expression from our players in light of a cause that moves them to personal expression.
Shannon, you buying it?
How disingenuous did that sound?
As he read it off a piece of paper, right? Like, I didn't hear any of that in what he was talking about before. He was like, yo, me, the organization, like, this is what we about, and hopefully we don't have these problems. And now all of a sudden it's, hey, man, it's a big old world out there. He ain't say nothing about the big old world before, did he? He ain't say nothing at all about the big old world before. Then he says it right now. So, Shannon, what do you think that was? Do you think that was the owner coming to tell him that he went too far? Or does it sound like somebody came and knocked on his office door like, hey, coach, can I talk to you for a second? Hey, man, I just, me and the fellas was in the locker room, talking, and I got to tell you, man, that wasn't really a good look on your part with the fellas. The fellas think that you might need to rephrase yourself just a little bit. Otherwise, the fellas going to go talk to some other fellas, and, it ain't going to be pretty.
And this is the same Bengals team with Vontaze Burfict and Pac-Man. Was Pac-Man the spokesperson for the team that came and talked to him?
Well, small problem. He works for the Browns now.
I mixed up my – well, okay, well, never mind.
Yeah. Like, to be fair, I have no idea what Vontaze Burfict thinks about anything other than hitting people, which he loves. That's all I got on him right there. But, I think somebody would have talked to Hugh and was like, Hugh, you're looking real funny in the light right now, bro. I mean, hey, you feel the way, whatever way it is that you feel. I'm just telling you, man, I don't know if that's the way you wanted to present yourself in this moment. And he came out there like, fine, somebody write something down. Yeah. Write something down. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead and do that. Chad, he said that players have come under unfair scrutiny, even though he demonstrated that he's one of the dudes that'll judge them. Is that not what happened, right? Did he not basically say, yo, this is a big deal to us. I would be judging somebody who did this. But no, I think it's unfair that these cats come under scrutiny for something that I just said the other day that I had a giant problem with and would probably, scrutinize some. Hey, man, let's play some football. Okay, we're only going to win 2 games. Y'all don't want to talk about something else. Hey, let's talk about Brock Osweiler. Isn't he good? Damn it. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, Kevin Durant got anything to lose by going hard at the president? ESPN Radio.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back Monday for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, Sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That is at Bomani_Jones. All right, so Kevin Durant had his Kevin Durant Day parade. Well, he didn't have it, but they had the Kevin Durant parade in Sea Pleasant, Maryland. That's how they say it, Maryland. Anyway, he went back to Maryland. They were honoring him for all the good that he does. And he was riding in the parade, all good. And somebody wanted to ask him about, real life stuff. And this is what he had to say.
I like both of you. We all do this with goodwill, I think, in general. These people at home that listen, this is what I'm tired of. I'm tired of you not listening to me. I'm tired of you hearing what you want to hear.
Hold on a second. Hold on. I don't want to do a disservice to that particular clip without giving the proper introduction there. I just want people to understand how we got there in the first place. And so Kevin Durant was at the Kevin Durant parade, and somebody asked him about Donald Trump, right? And so here is what Kevin Durant had to say about the president.
A lot of players have been vocal about Trump lately, you know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. We're supposed to be. Well, whatever.
Right, fairly succinct, right? And so what that led to was First Take with Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman and Will K. Now, Shannon, do we know if Will was supposed to come to work today, or did somebody put out an APB to get Will to come to work today?
He was supposed to. You told me earlier that you got a surprise this morning with Will, right?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. They tell me I'm doing Mike and Mike. I get on, and it's Mike and Will. And I asked him, I said right then and there, I was like, yo, so is this a setup? And Will even himself was like, yeah, I was wondering the same thing. They had talked to me on Monday about coming on Friday. But, as I've said before on here, I like Will. I think he's really wrong about a lot of stuff, but I like Will. So we kept it civil. We had a decent discussion, but Will's still talking that I don't understand what dudes are protesting for noise, right? Like, he's still there, even though, Shannon, didn't y'all explain that to Will for a week?
We tried.
Like, for a solid week. But for a solid week, y'all tried to explain to Will what it was, right? Will did not want to hear. A year later, Will still does not know what it is that people are protesting for. Anyway, he wound up on First Take with Stephen A. and with Max. And, Shannon, have you seen the clip of when Will started talking about Trump and Stephen A. just looked like he'd had enough? He didn't want any more.
The image macro of that is hilarious.
Now, do we know if this audio that we're about to play from people is before that or after that? Because that's the only time I've ever seen Stephen A. Smith ready to surrender. Like, I don't know what Stephen A. did last night, but he just looked tired in that very moment. Anyway, what follows is 2 minutes and 42 seconds of woo! Just here we go. The first voice is Will's. The other white dude is Max, and I think you know Stephen A.
I like both of you. We all do this with goodwill, I think, in general. These people at home that listen, this is what I'm tired of. I'm tired of you not listening to me. I'm tired of you hearing what you want to hear. I'm tired of you lumping it into... Listen, I'm tired of you hearing good guys and bad guys, my side and the bad side. I'm tired of you saying anything that disagrees with you is beyond the realm of politics. I'm tired of being moral. I'm tired of you saying it's moral versus immoral. None of those things occur. And Kevin Durant is on one side and all the immoral are on the other. And in the process of you cloaking yourself in this clear morality that anyone that has even the slightest bit of nuance of disagreement with you is somehow evil. In the process of you doing this preening, this peacocking on TV, you don't hear a single thing that somebody says to you. First of all, when I say Kevin Durant, BS. When I say Kevin Durant has the right and I compare it to Matt Burke doing to Obama, Max, get out of here with I'm making moral equivalencies. You're so addicted to the language of the last week that you made a BS comparison there. I didn't say they were the same. Did I once say those are the same?
Why did you bring it up as an example, Will?
Because I show consistency, Max. That's the difference. I'm not convenient. I show consistency.
Oh, so you're the only one that shows consistency?
Yeah, you're right, Max. You know what I did out here?
Is that what you're implying?
Yeah, you're right, Max. You know what I did out here? I wanted to come out here and draw a correlation, an equivalency between Barack Obama and Donald Trump. That's exactly what I did. You did a good job of not listening.
You may have done so unwittingly.
You do such a good job of not listening to make the exact point you want to make, which is a simplified reduction of anything into good versus evil, moral versus immoral, and guess which side you put yourself on in every debate.
Hold on, Max. So, Will, since we're so challenged as it pertains to comprehending what the great, all-knowing, fully educated, super educated Will King is saying, I'm asking you. I'm asking a question. Could you tell me exactly what you said about Kevin Durant when you said that it's about politics? You didn't say that?
Yeah.
Tell me what you said.
No, I will.
Tell me what you said.
And you know what? It's not an insult to say, please listen, okay? And I can't believe that somehow, you're offended.
Answer the question, Will.
And I can't believe
Answer the question.
Stop talking, and I will. I can't believe somehow you're offended by me questioning your listening skills when you question the very morality of someone who disagrees with you. Yet you get to be offended. Here's what I said. Kevin Durant has the right. Everyone has the right. No one should have moral imperative to have to support anything they don't support. I've consistently held that position from administration to administration.
That's not what I'm asking.
I'm not done.
Stop it. You guys stop interrupting each other.
Molly was like, come on, guys, stop. Shannon Will's mad.
Oh, no. Oh, he was really mad.
Stephen A., he was mad. They was mad. Why was they so mad?
And we honestly couldn't tell. Like, we were going back, you and I were going back and forth about this. Like, was it genuine? Did it seem like they were mad? Were they putting on? Oh, no.
That's mad.
That's mad.
That's mad. There's no doubt about it. I waited until we got on this show for somebody to play that clip so I could give you my natural first reaction. And, yeah, that was mad. That was full-on, unadulterated mad. And, Shannon, do you know yet what they were mad about?
I think Will took issue with how Max and Stephen A. responded to something that Will had said regards to Kevin Durant. I got that right? Yeah.
Yes, and it was enough. I wish I could have been there for the commercial break. I wish I could have been there to see the camera on Molly's face, because I've been there when everybody around you is fighting and you just over there chilling. It's always a very awkward sort of situation. Man, they was going, whoo, yikes. Anyway, is there even a story with Kevin Durant on this? Like, we talked about it earlier in the show, and I do believe that you'll have, like, more athletes who are doing this sort of thing. But the question that I asked earlier is there any controversy to saying something like that about a person whose approval rating is in the 30s? And this isn't bold at this point. It's not. Durant's like, yo, we don't rock with that dude. There's a long line of people that say they don't rock with that dude, that look all kinds of ways, by the way. There's a long line of people who say that they don't rock with that dude. You know what I actually thought was more impactful that happened yesterday than Kevin Durant doing that? Chris Long standing next to Malcolm Jenkins while Malcolm Jenkins threw the fist up. That was a very interesting moment there because what Chris has said is, look, I am an ally in this, and I want to stand in solidarity with you, but I understand that this is not necessarily my fight, which is a difficult balance to try to pull off because I do think on matters of right and wrong and justice as it relates to race that there's a need for white people to step up, right? It gets a little awkward when white people get to the front, but there's a need for white people to step up, if for no other reason than people listen to white folks. Right? When white folks talk, people are far more likely to listen. So, like, I saw the ESPN.com story about Long standing with Malcolm Jenkins. That story wasn't about Malcolm Jenkins. That story was about Chris Long. Now, part of the reason why that story was about Chris Long is because Chris Long grew up in Charlottesville. He went to the University of Virginia. So, yeah, there's going to be a level there where it's going to be about Chris Long. But Malcolm Jenkins has been doing this, and Malcolm Jenkins has been out here grinding on this matter. I don't think most people know that Malcolm Jenkins has been out here grinding on this matter, right? But I think that Long doing that is an impactful thing. I also make the argument, though, that if you saw Long do that and you're like, yeah, good for Chris Long, after saying good for Chris Long, go talk to Malcolm Jenkins and ask him some more questions and go read up on the work that Malcolm Jenkins has been doing. I don't even necessarily agree with everything that Malcolm Jenkins has been doing. Like Malcolm's doing the ride along with the police because everybody seems to be under this mistaken belief that nobody thinks it's hard to be a cop. We know that. Like, I don't even know what exactly it is I'm supposed to see on this ride-along that's going to be like, oh, wow, I didn't realize how hard these cops' jobs were. Yeah, I know their jobs are hard. You know why I know their jobs are hard? Because they got to walk around with guns. Yeah, that's a pretty clear sign as to whether or not your job is hard if you got to walk around with a piece. Like, we understand that, right? So, like, when I see Malcolm Jenkins talking about that, I'm like, yeah, okay, if that's what you say. But the dude's been out here really on grind, right? As much as people get mad about Kaepernick and he generates this visceral reaction, Jenkins was a guy that after Kaepernick went out and did a lot to try to make things better. Talk to him too, right? Because what Chris did was important. It was because you need those kinds of displays. But what Jenkins is doing, even Chris Long will tell you, that's probably the real story. By the way, here is Chris Long right here talking about supporting Malcolm Jenkins.
You know, this week was a tough week for somebody being from where I'm from, but it's not about me. It's not about the people of Charlottesville, but I was inspired by a lot of the allies that were there to stand up against hate in my hometown. And I wasn't able to be there to protest or to stand up for hate and to stand up against hate. And, you know, people like Heather Heyer gave their life for that. And, you know, I was inspired by that. So I was just telling Malcolm, I'm here for you. And I think it's a good time for people that look like me to be here for people that are fighting for equality.
That's a strong statement, man. That's a real strong statement. And I give all the credit in the world to the man for it. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, DeMaurice Smith, the head of the NFL Players Association, says a work stoppage in 2021 is almost a virtual certainty. That's a quote. Why? Find out on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. That's the old soul song of the day, Lovely Day by Bill Withers, which is not like in like the great era Bill Withers. This is in the Bill Withers Get Money era, you know, but, you know, it's got a bass line. People like it. That'll work. Old soul song of the day is brought to you by Pizza Hut. Turn every dollar you spend on pizza into unlimited points for free pizza with Pizza Hut's Hut Rewards program. Sign up today for double points because no one out-pizzas the Hut. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. So you guys may remember there was a lockout in 2011. They wound up coming back just in time for the season to start. By the way, a season where we had a crazy inflation on passing numbers, in large part because of the lost work from training camp. But no, here we are. It's going to happen again, man. At least it sounds like it's going to happen again. We got reason to think that it's going to happen again. Why do we have reason to think it's going to happen again? Here is D. Smith, the head of the NFL Players Association. He's talking to Albert Breer of MMQB.
Do you look at the possibility of a work stoppage in 2021, or is it too early for that?
I think that the likelihood of either a strike or a lockout in 21 is almost a virtual certainty.
Oh, so there's that. Now, why will the players be locked out? D went a little further.
There is no uncapped year because last year, the last time we went through it, we found out that the owners lied and cheated about the uncapped year. All of the mutual benefits that were supposed to happen as a result of the opt-out didn't happen. We found out they colluded with each other, and all of the bad things that went to the players happened, and none of the bad things that went to the owners happened. So we have a new deal where if it doesn't get fixed, you head into a certain small A Armageddon.
Small A Armageddon. Shannon, is there such thing as a small A Armageddon?
I thought the whole point of an Armageddon would be a capitalized A.
It's big A. Like, if it's Armageddon, it's a big A Armageddon. That's the only kind of Armageddon there is. It's a big A Armageddon. That's a double entendre, Shannon. Like a big A Armageddon. But Armageddon has a big A. I wasn't sure everybody caught that. I felt like I deserved a little pat on the back that I don't feel like I'm properly receiving. That was your sign to properly pat me on the back.
That what that was? Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, I'll make note of that next time.
Next time, okay. That's cool. Anyway, here's my question if they're going to talk about having a work stoppage of any sort, like lockout or strike. The lockout part is far more likely. The NFL players are like, nah, bro, we got to come to work. Nothing we have pays for itself. We got to come to work, right? And them cats is going to be there at work. Don't get me wrong. My question is, are the owners going to try to use this as an opportunity to absolutely crush the players? Right, because this thing's basically going to shake out the way it shook out the last time, I would think, if it happened as such. They're going to get all the way down to the end, get themselves all the way up to the deadline, and then everybody realizes that it's better for both parties to come out here and play. And so then they'll rush together and they'll come with some sort of solution. But always got to remember this about the difference between players and owners. Players make money while they play. Them owners been making money their whole lives. They always have more money, right? Everybody say, well, the players need to save money. I mean, they can save money to allow them to hold out for a little bit. The owners can always go longer. The owners can always hold out for longer because it's millionaires versus billionaires. The difference between a millionaire and a billionaire is typically staggering. Like, yeah, there's some dude that has $999 million, and that dude is merely a millionaire. That's not what we talking about with these cats in the NFL, man. They got people depending on them. They need that bread. They're going to wind up coming back for that bread. And the fact they're going to wind up coming back for that bread makes you wonder, if it gets to this again, how hard is the NFL going to go? Because they seem to be in a completely different place than the NBA. Shannon, you saw that. The NBA, they quietly extended their work agreement, right?
Yeah, let's go ahead and push this back a couple of years, guys. We're good here.
Yeah. They're like, no, we'll keep this going. We all out here making money. We straight. We'll keep this running. Also of note, NBA players have demonstrated a willingness to miss games. Now, they're not missing full seasons, right? Like, it hasn't been like the NHL is gone, but NBA players have demonstrated that they are willing to miss games. They'll go out there and do that. Football players won't. And I don't judge football players for the fact that they're not willing to go out there and miss games because I don't know what their lives are. I just know they're just not willing. History has indicated to us to go out there and miss games. And since they're not willing to go out there and miss games, owners going to try to crush them, right? And what the players don't want, what is worst case scenario for the players, is to start something like a strike and then have dudes cross and picket. I also wondered this too, Shannon. You think that there would be replacement players if they did this again?
Oh, just imagine the replacement player climate now. But now that everything that we have now with the social media and all, this is not 30 years ago. You know,
right.
This is not 87. It's different now.
Right. How does that go when them dudes are standing there waiting on you when you come across? Like, how is that going to go? Like, would that be a thing? But, I mean, I guess we got 4 years before it actually comes up. But it does sound like it is going to come. It does sound like it is going to happen. And the difference between this union and the Upshaw union, the Upshaw union really operated according to a cooperative model. And what was interesting about the cooperative model is that CBA, the last CBA that Upshaw did, basically precipitated this next lockout, right? They did not have the antagonistic relationship that the union and the owners have right now. And when they did that, they got a deal that was pretty good. Honestly, the players' deal the last time wasn't as bad as advertised. It's pretty good for rank and file guys. Right, like rank and file guys have come out pretty well from that collective bargaining agreement, at least from what it is that I can tell. They've done okay with this. It's gone, right? It's rolled. But Upshaw was on some, hey, let's work together. This is a different union attitude. This is a we gonna fight sort of union, which is, traditionally how unions get down. Unions are normally bringing the fight to the owners. We'll see how well that one actually works out because the owners are really deciding they're going to try to beat them into submission. And that's the thing that always winds up happening in these labor negotiations is the management side is trying to beat the other side in the submission. The other side is like, we're just trying to get what we think is fair.
Well, the question I have on this, if you see this coming and we're several years down the line from this, why not start working on that now? Like, I know that seems pretty simple.
But what does working on it mean? Like, what do they do?
Well, anything that you can do to try to prevent it from happening. If Demo's already saying that this is gonna happen, why not do everything you can to prevent that now?
But there's nothing they can do right now to prevent it. What he's saying is the owners last time broke all the rules and did everything they could to make it such that they would be able to keep making money even though there was a lockout, right? So, like, they had an uncapped year. That was supposed to be a penalty to stop a lockout. The owners basically enacted a de facto salary cap. Okay, the television money. The owners figured out how to get the money from DirecTV even if the games weren't played, right? So because of that, the owners don't have any reason to give any ground. Since they're not going to give any ground, DeMaurice Smith is looking at it and saying, we saw they did it the last time, but they're not going to give any ground, then they're going to offer us something that is unsatisfactory and we can't accept it. So, like, how do you fix that now? You see what I mean?
That makes all the sense in the world. Just looking at it, once again from afar, and I haven't studied it as much. But if you know it's something, I'm just wondering why it couldn't be prevented. That's all.
Yeah, and he's saying we can't be prevented because they're not going to give us a satisfactory offer. And that's something they can't fix. That's something that they cannot control. All they can say is, if you don't give us a satisfactory offer, we're not going to take it. And the owners are like, cool, we rich. Hey, get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program at fuelrewards.com/gold. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, we will talk about the one thing in sports that makes me a bit irrational, even though I'm trying to be a better person. Find out how I'm failing to be a better person on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80. NFL fans will do almost anything to help their team win. Tostitos, the official chip and dip of the NFL, created lucky bags for select NFL teams this season. They participated in team traditions with the hope that doing so would bring luck to each team. They raised a 12th man flag for the Seahawks, waved the terrible towel for the Steelers bags, and gave Broncos bags a mile-high salute. Current NFL players Dak Prescott, Jadeveon Clowney, Joe Flacco, and Aaron Donald all participated to make their bags lucky. Visit Tostitos.com to see how Tostitos made your team's lucky bag and pick one up at a store near you.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. By the way, we had it last segment. It was what fascinated me, brought to you by Firestone Complete Auto Care, keeping cars running newer, longer, whatever you drive a Firestone. Anyway, Chris Sims. He played quarterback at the University of Texas. He played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I feel like he had a couple other stops. Don't remember what those stops were, but he played in the NFL. He also had, like, one of the great tough man games ever. I don't even remember if Tampa won the game, but that dude played a whole half of football with a ruptured spleen, which is kind of bananas. Anyway, Sims got a gig. He's doing media work now, and I think he's got a gig. He's going to be doing some stuff for NBC Sports coming up, and good for him. And, like, I bring up Chris Sims because I'm trying to be a better person, right? Like my man said in Baltimore, as I was talking about that, he's trying to be a better person. Trying to be a better person today. And part of me being a better person, hold on 1 second. I accidentally unplugged my headphones, and I get a little paranoid when that happens. But, we got a problem, guys. Just so you know, I don't have headphones for a little while. Anyway, part of me being a better person is me just understanding that, like, I used to be a fan with it, right? Now I am a professional. And with being a professional, you got to treat things differently than you did when you were just an irrational fan. Now, as many of you know, I root in college football for the University of Texas. I root for Texas. That's what I do, man. It hadn't been a very fruitful thing for the last few years, but that's what I do. And as I told you before, Chris Sims used to play quarterback for the University of Texas. I harbor some irrational feelings about that man as a result. He's never done anything to me personally, right? There was that interception. Or was it a fumble? However you want to put it in the end zone where Roy Williams jumped over that dude. Remember that?
Iconic, yeah. That iconic shot of Roy Williams.
I've never thought of it as being iconic. I've seen it much more as a tragedy. So if you want to call it an iconic tragedy, Shannon, then yeah, That's what it is. Is that what you meant? Did you mean iconic tragedy?
It was an Armageddon with a small A.
It was an iconic tragedy. That was one of a handful of times while Chris Sims was at Texas that they did not beat Oklahoma. Yeah. But I'm trying to be a better person, right? And I know a lot of people who know Chris through work, like he does some stuff with Bleacher Report, cool with a lot of people at Bleacher Report. A lot of people I really like and really trust. They like and trust Chris Sims. They say very good things about Chris Sims. And I'm becoming an adult, and I'm recognizing that you got to let these things go sometimes, right? These guys that you had these feelings for when they played, you got to let some of that go. I mean, after all, it's not like he was the man of the year and got busted for soliciting a prostitute. Right? Like, that's the sort of thing you hold on to. All kinds of people tell me they work with Chris and they like him. And Chris is a good guy. But Chris did, was it on Dan Patrick that he said this, Shannon?
He was on Dan Patrick's show today, yeah.
Yeah, he went on Dan Patrick and he said that while he was playing at Texas, that he was the recipient of what they call $100 handshakes. You know, that the boosters would come up to him and say hello, and then they would hand him $100. And, you know, as I told you, I'm trying to be a better person. I am trying to improve as a person. And I realize I haven't come that far because I heard Chris Sims talking about getting $100 handshakes. And I ain't really had no problem with him snitching, right? I don't care about that. My problem was I hear the boosters are giving him $100 handshakes, and I'm looking at the boosters like, do we not have quality control? What did he do to earn $100? Right? Like, were you watching? Why would you give him? Did you know that his daddy is rich? Did you know that? He didn't even need the money. Right. So forget about the fact that there should be some kind of performance basis for these sorts of things. He don't even need the bread. Maybe that's why he ain't get better by the time he got out. No incentive to. Cats just paying you to be who you are. When being who you are was not enough. And I know I'm not being fair. I recognize fully that I am being unfair. I just want to be a better person. Can y'all help me be a better person? Because I'm trying to be a better person. Because the person I am ain't here for it. Shannon, you want to tell the people what Fran Fraschilla had to say about Chris Sims getting them $100 handshakes?
Didn't he say something about it coming from Oklahoma booster instead?
Yeah, he asked if they were Oklahoma boosters. And I'd love to be mad, except I think that's a fair question. And you know why I think that's a fair question? Because I need to be a better person. I do. I need to be a better person. Like, hopefully I will meet Chris Sims and we'll hit it off and I'll never have to bring this up ever again. But it would be weird because I feel like I'd have to be friends with Chris Sims, but we can never talk about Texas football, which would be like a thing that we had in common because I'm not a good enough person to do that the right way. Invest your money a little bit better, Texas boosters. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. I have to tell you guys, on this day, 53 years ago, the world received an absolute treasure, and that treasure was DJ Mike Hitman. Happy birthday, man.
Hey, Bo, what's going on, Bo?
What's going on, man? How the party going?
We on our way right there. I want you to hear somebody say something. I got the loveliest ladies with me. We like Bonnie and Clyde, but we don't steal.
Hi, Bomani.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing just wonderful. I'm with this amazing man and about to partake in an adventure and enjoying his birthday.
Oh, I got an adventure going. What's the adventure?
Yes.
I hope everybody heard that. Amazing man. That's what I do. I'm amazing in Chicago, ladies and gentlemen. And I got the amazing lady with me. Both about to get this party cracking. I wish you could be here. I wish Shannon could be here. And I got the greens for you, Shannon. That's if you don't eat greens, I got the greens and cornbread for you.
Mike, tell her where the party's at, man.
Okay, I'm going to let my girl tell you where the party at. Tell them where the party at.
Actually, it's at 465 McClure Court. This is my first time. So it's going to be boat.
Mike, you going to be on the boat?
We're going to be on a boat party with the fishes. We might see Flipper out there. I got a man driving right now with a hat, badge and gun. We get chauffeur and a nice Lexus going over to the boat. His name is Greg, by the way, if y'all need him. He's a good man.
Mike, enjoy the party, man. I hope you have a great birthday, my brother.
Bo, thanks for putting me on the album. Have a great time. Hey, next time, Shannon.
Hey, what's up?
It's Sugar Bear's birthday.
That's what they called me, Bo, Sugar Bear. She's the only one that called me that. Nobody else. Have a good one, Bo.
All right, Mike. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, catch up boys you haven't heard, and apparently athletes struggling to stick to sports. You're listening to ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Our guest joined us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks to Howard Bryant of ESPN for joining us in the 5 o'clock Eastern hour. Thanks to Cian Fahey of PreSnapReads.com for joining us in the 4 o'clock Eastern hour. Remember, if you miss anything live, check out the Right Time podcast available on the ESPN app. Right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. All right, Shannon, what we miss out on today?
We know you can't be on top of all the news and information of the day. Now, if you haven't heard.
It seems to be a theme that's running throughout the sports world, but it is, in fact, getting tougher to hashtag stick to sports. And if you haven't heard, here's Bomani Jones earlier today on The Right Time discussing that topic and why it's hard to avoid the news because it's everywhere.
You can't avoid this because everybody's going to bring it to people. And you know why athletes ain't going to be able to avoid this? Because, dog, this is what everybody talking about. Yo, I don't know if you have noticed, guys, but the world has gone kind of crazy. Right? The world has gone a little bit bonkers, and as a result, it's going to be coming to your athletes. Here's the only thing, though. Can we all, acknowledge, all of us, that saying something bad about the president is not controversial? I feel like that's a necessary thing to point out, because controversial is one of these terms that we overuse. Controversial is kind of like distractions, where we just throw it out there. If you were to ask somebody what controversial actually meant, are you sure that they could give you a definition based on how wantonly people call things controversial or make reference to controversy? Right? Seriously, stop and think about that for a second. Because at this point, Donald Trump has an approval rating that's in the 30s. All right? In the 30s. So if you say that you don't F with Donald Trump, Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, but that means that roughly 62% of the population agrees with you.
Yes.
Right. Now, I looked this up. Controversial. Adjective. Giving rise or likely to give rise to public disagreements. I don't even know if that's what's happening at this point with saying that you don't rock with Trump. I'm sure there's some circles that you could go in where people get mad at you about that. But, Shannon, you know who that circle is full of? I hate the NBA guy.
Unfortunately, I would have to agree with that, yes.
That circle is high on I hate the NBA guy. Kevin Durant is speaking to the NBA base of the people that get who Kevin Durant is. Ain't a single bit of controversy in the world about saying this. You're going to hear a lot more athletes who come out and say that they don't rock with the president. And, if we're going to be real, there's nothing, really impressive about it. When LeBron did his whole we need to love each other thing and so-called president and everything else, I had people get mad at me for saying that I wasn't particularly impressed by the fact that LeBron had done that. No, because, dude, you are talking about a man who is wildly unpopular. Wildly unpopular. And by the way, in the course of this, Shannon, I figured out exactly how it is that we misuse controversial. We use controversial to talk about things that people say that are actually abhorrent and terrible, and we just call it controversial. Does that make sense? You remember we used to have some people here that put them crazy memes up on the internet?
Right.
You remember that?
Right.
They ain't controversial. They were just ridiculous. There's a difference. There is a difference.
All right, Bo, for the folks who don't know who I hate the NBA guy is, could you please briefly explain who that is?
It is the guy who goes out of his way not to simply dislike the NBA, but to make sure you know at every turn how much he dislikes the NBA. And he typically dislikes the NBA without ever having really watched any NBA games, because all the things he says he has a problem with about the NBA aren't actually real things that happen in said NBA.
Funny that you should bring that up, because our poll today on The Right Time on ESPN Radio's Twitter account, the question was, what is I hate the NBA guy's main reason for not liking the league? And the options were they don't play defense, traveling, players are selfish, or I just don't like it. And 37% of the over 2,000 voters said they don't play defense is the number one reason why they hate the NBA.
We should have left other in there because people see. And we had so many people who hit us up and were like, the real answer ain't here, right? They're like, the real answer's not listed. And I'm like, look, these are the choices.
Right. These are the choices.
This is what's ain't no ordering off the menu this time, okay? These are the options. Yes, I suggest you get the quarter pounder.
Right, so 37% they don't play defense. 30% said players are selfish. 23% I just don't like it. I guess that would constitute as other, maybe. And only 10% said traveling. So I think they're coming around on the whole carrying thing.
I will say this, that 10% is still kind of high for traveling.
Like they pay that much attention to it, right?
Right.
Okay, Rutgers hadn't been too hot in football here lately, so they're trying to change that with their season opening game against number 7 Washington. They're actually installing a temporary pool in the student section of the football stadium. A pool.
I can't think of a worse idea than getting in that water. Like, the chlorine that's necessary to keep that to where I would feel safe would burn me.
My question to you, though, on the flip side, if they did the same thing, though, at an HBCU, would that be, one, a great event, or secondly, will no one actually get in the pool?
No one will be in the pool. There will be a lot of people around said pool. No one will be in the pool. There will be a lot of people in heels, though.
Pool party.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of people in heels. Please believe that. But no. Ain't nobody actually going to be in the pool. You think anybody going to get their hair wet? Because, look, you guaranteed to get your hair wet if you mess around and get into a pool like that in that circumstance. And it's all fun and games until somebody's hair get wet.
Changes the whole game. Like, somebody's hair get wet or you messed up their brand new sneakers. Because dudes are going to pool parties in their new sneakers.
Yes, they are. They absolutely are. And New Yorkers going in their Timbs because that's just the kind of thing that they do. Right? Summer's September, Tim weather. But there's a pool. I'm just saying. But, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this every weekday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Shannon Nuno Cat, thanks so much. Jalen Jacoby's coming up next. Talk to you on Monday.
Thanks for listening to The Right Time podcast. Please come back Monday for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this. 5 seconds. Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges, let's